It's this dude in his wheelchair and about 4 or 5 dudes with him, hanging out. I know they Crips because my cousins all Crips in LA. So I'm like, that's some gangbangers. What they doing out here? They're like, hey, I want to holler at you for a minute, Hammer. So basically he came at Hammer like, hey man, it's LA and everything, man, and things can happen, you know what I'm saying? You to holler at me, man, you know what I'm saying? Holler at me for protection.
It's been rumors that LA is probably one of the most dangerous places for rappers. Do you believe that's true?
Yeah. Because, I mean, everybody be checking in. That's y'all favorite thing to do, check in with somebody that's gonna rob you.
Death to all Crips and Bloods. Death to all GDs and BDs. May they all die like King Von. May they all die like Drakeo the Ruler.
We all know that gangs disrespecting rappers in hip-hop is kind of a thing, but sometimes they take it to a whole new level, disrespecting legendary rappers who did not check in.
We get out there, it's this dude in his wheelchair and about 4 or 5 dudes with him, hanging out. I know they Crips because my cousins all Crips in LA. So I'm like, that's some gangbangers. What they doing out here? I want to holler at you for a minute, Hammer. Holler at me, man. If you don't, something could happen to you, whatever. He said, what you trying to say?
In hip-hop, gangs of a city are always reached out to provide security for rappers coming into their city to perform. This act is met with monetary tips and is known in the hip-hop world as checking in.
It's been rumors that LA is probably one of the most dangerous places for rappers. Do you believe that's true?
Yeah. Because, I mean, everybody be checking in. That's y'all favorite thing to do, check in with somebody that's gonna rob you, stupid.
But it looks like not every rapper likes to check in, especially those who have long been in the game. This usually leads to the gangs standing against them and disrespecting them in unimaginable ways. Let's take the time some Crips members went after Lil Wayne as a yardstick. Some Crips member dared to attack his convoy, and boy, they did not wait to see the last.
What happened? What's happening?
Gonna get burned.
Spot a low city. What's happening?
Or the time that a Crips guy came for Waka Flocka Flame and ended up almost getting pounced on.
What's happening? This ain't beach down there, bro. What's happening? I'm here. What's happening? Yeah, I'm here, bro. I'm not studying. I'm Gucci, you cool. We talking about.
It doesn't just end with these two. How far could these gangs really go? Let's find out. First off, we have the situation with MC Hammer and a Crips leader, Michael Concepcion. One interesting thing about this situation was that Hammer managed to make the guy apologize to him at the end of the day. That should be called the Hammer's magic. Everyone sure knows that Hammer has a long reputation in hip-hop, although he comes off as being goofy and edgy in his songs and overall media appearance, but behind all of that is a man that even gangsters fear. Before we get into the details, let's take a recent incident to remind of who Hammer really is. So in 2022, MC Hammer was trending on the X platform, which was formerly known as Twitter. The reason why was because of an old photo that featured Big Syke, Suge Knight, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, and Hammer at the 1996 Grammys was going all around the net. As you would have imagined, it was an old school setting, so they were all decked out in their 90s fits, looking swaggered for the time. In this photo, Hammer is seen on the far right, with his arms crossed behind his back, smiling. Anyone would have thought he is the most jovial and least dangerous in the pack, because everyone else clearly had way too serious facial expressions. The caption to this viral photo read, "I don't think I've ever seen anyone more out of place than Hammer was in this photo, LOL." More like it seemed like the poster did not have an idea of who Hammer was, so Twitter went blazing. The Oakland legend was not someone to be compared to anyone. Yes, there are the parts of his flashy pants, pop superstardom, and even his endearing ability to buy anyone over. But generally, he was not to be crossed. This Twitter conversation spawned into a whole discovery of what hip-hop insiders know about MC Hammer and what mainstream pop culture thinks it knows. Overall, MC Hammer remains dauntless. Now, let's take it back to the time the Crips tried to mess with him. Although not many versions of this story is on the net, but one particular narration that seems admissible seems to come from Benito, MC Hammer's vocalist at the time. He took us back to one story about how Hammer decided to pick a fight with Michael Concepcion, one of the original founding members of the LA Crips street gang. Michael had lost his legs to street fight at just 21, but he was still gangbanging. On Benito's account of the incident, they had just rounded off this particular event, planning to roll out of the location. As they stepped out, some of the guys spotted Michael in his wheelchair, surrounded by about 4 Crips. Michael called out to Hammer, and it looked like that kind of changed the atmosphere. It was a surprise why gang members were suddenly around and why Michael would be calling out Hammer. Of course, Michael did not waste time. He went straight and told Hammer that Hammer might need protection since he was in L.A, that Hammer should hit him up for safety since they were still in LA.
It's this dude in his wheelchair and about 4 or 5 dudes with him, hanging out. I know they Crips because my cousins are all Crips in LA. So I'm like, there's some gangbangers. What they doing out here? He's like, hey, I want to holler at you for a minute, Hammer.
Hammer did not hold back. He asked why that would be necessary. He already had about 12 bodyguards who were just as capable of keeping him and his crew safe. To put this in clearer picture, these guards aren't even small themselves. Allegedly, some of them were even k-ers. So it was clear that Michael's proposal for protection was not needed, but Michael did not stop being insistent. He even went on to say that if Hammer didn't hire him, something could happen to him. It seemed like he was dishing out a threat.
Protection. Hammer said, protection for what? See, man, I got 12 bodyguards out there, and 4 or 5 of them straight. You know what I'm saying? So, what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? I don't need no protection. Holler at me, man. If you don't, something could happen to you, whatever. He said, what you trying to say? He said, you go ahead and take care of that, and everything will be cool. He said, you trying to start strangle on me, nigga?
At this point, Hammer had had enough, so things got pretty heated. They began to exchange words, and even Hammer's bodyguards jumped in and were gassed to take the gang members out. But things died down as Hammer stood in. He then told Michael that he did not need to do too much. He could have made a phone call, and the rest would have been history. Looked like it was the Hammer's magic, because everyone dispersed that night. Shockingly, the next day, Michael went back to Hammer.
Our people looking like, yeah, I'm waiting for you to move. Hammer, hey, what's up? He said, hey, man, it's like this. I'll make one phone call, and all this will go away. I talked to you for a minute, and Hammer said, what's up, man? I said, man, I apologize for the thing. I didn't know, the people you knew or whatever, this and that, and I apologize for what I did, brother. It's all good. We cool. We good. Hammer's like, yeah, it's all right.
Speak of wider connections, Hammer is definitely on another pedestal. Well, these gangs do not just stop at just one rapper. This next one was when Spider Lock and some Crips members decided to throw a hit on Lil Wayne's convoy.
What happened? What's happening?
Going to get burned.
Spider Lock said, what's happening? It's a Crip. Food chain, Coach Crip.
It all started to develop when Lil Wayne got featured on Shawty Lowe's Day No remix. Lil Wayne apparently took a shot at the Crips.
And he had a lyric that said, Suwu gang, if you ain't with that, you from the food chain. Thinking about school, the ocean, and you know what you find in the ocean. I thought he was sneak dissing.
Words from Spider Lock were that Lil Wayne had come over to their location. He was there to shoot a music video with T-Pain. Instead of Spider Lock to have taken the opportunity to talk things out with Wayne, he joined a large group of individuals to attack him and his convoy.
He came to shoot a video with T-Pain, and instead of me getting an opportunity to approach him one-on-one, I ended up being with a large group of individuals.
But things did not escalate further as the police sirens scared them off. But it did not stop with Wayne. This next rapper is Waka Flocka Flame. Taking it back sometime in 2010, Waka and Gucci Mane were shooting a video. As they were on set, suddenly a guy decided to cause a rumble.
What's happening? This ain't beach down there, bro. What's happening? I'm here. What's happening? I'm here, bro. I'm not studying. I'm Gucci, you cool.
Words were that Waka had apparently stepped on some toes earlier. According to sources, some locals weren't too thrilled about him being in their neighborhood, so it may be that the guy from earlier seems to be running the errands on their behalf. But there's also another perspective, which is that Waka and this guy had some altercation in the past, and seeing Waka in his hood was not just cool with him, things got heated fast. It looked like Waka and the guy were about to get real. But the situation was swiftly diffused. It didn't turn into a sticky situation.
I'm the one that beats you, nigga. I'm the one that beats you, nigga. Yeah, I'm the one that beats you, nigga. You know what? I need to go out to the bullet, nigga. It's well, nigga, buddy. We out here eating, bro. We out here eating, bro. Grip set, man. Way bigger than this, bro.
Still, after that whole incident, Waka wasn't bothered at all. He stood solid and ready.
Hey, two-step with me. And I ain't talking about uncle, but shout out to my fucking uncles. Got money made backs like Trump. Hey, two-step. Nah, man, we chillin', man. It's just anti-social video shoot. Tongue to the man. Goonied out, man. Shout out to the nigga I just got down scene trying to fight me with a camera phone, man.
Let's digress a little. This next star is not a rapper, but he is an NBA legend, Shaquille O'Neal. Now, for those who know Shaq, he was nothing but a Terminator on the ball court. He is even known as one of the greatest in NBA as we speak. Back in the summer of 1996, Shaq was just a free agent who had just left the Orlando Magic. But just shortly after that, he signed a 7-year deal worth $120 million with the Los Angeles Lakers. This changed his life. It propelled him that he dominated the industry. From 2000 to 2002, he led the Lakers to 3 straight NBA championships and was named the Finals MVP each time. But what many people don't know is that during his time in LA, Shaq actually got tight with the notorious Main Street Mafia Crips. Based on the east side of South Central LA, they are known for making money moves. Shaq would get close to a high-ranking member named Liddell Rose, popularly called Del Dog. Del Dog was a hustler who had everything at his fingertips. He was also an entertainer who was close to high-level celebrities like Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and Steve Harvey.
You go to a guy like Dale when you got a problem. To say, look, man, I'm having a problem. I can't get this done because this guy's over here doing this. I can't get this done because that guy's doing that.
So, Shaq and Del Dog, along with other Main Street members, formed a strong bond earlier. Shaq even got protection and street credibility based on their influence. On the other hand, the Main Street got deals and connections in the industry through him. Things were going smoothly for both parties, but soon enough, they started to fall out. Shaq and his business partner Mark Stevens owned a record label called Deja. They at the time arranged an agreement with another Main Street member named Robert Ross, known in the streets as Stutterbox. The deal was that Stutterbox would get a 50% cut of the profits for every artiste he led to the label. Enticing deal, right? So allegedly, Stutterbox claimed he brought Ray J in, but he got cut out of the deal, which created bad blood between him and Shaq. While Shaq remained cool with Del Dog and other Main Street members, Stutterbox was still feeling some type of way and wanted what he thought he was entitled to. He didn't get it the right way, so he decided to go through the blackmail route, making Shaq the scapegoat. Turns out that Shaq had been having multiple extramarital affairs with different women at Stutterbox's house, without the knowledge of his wife Shawnee. The shocker was that Stutterbox house had security cameras all around, so he has more than enough to spill. In July of 2017, Stutterbox had threatened to release those footage unless Shaq decided to sort him out. Things escalated quickly. On February 11th, 2008, Del Dog and some other Main Street members decided to waylay Stutterbox at a Pink Dot convenience store on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. They forced their way into his Rolls Royce and drew their guns. He was forced to drive to Del Dog's house in South Central, and once there, Del Dog pistol whipped him, demanding the tape and an extra $100,000. Stutterbox promised to get the tape and bring it back to them, but the crew wasn't taking any chances. They went ahead and took some things like his Rolex, his diamond chain, his earrings, and even $15,000 in cash before they dashed out. After this attack, Stutterbox went straight to the police. He showed up at the 77th Street Division station with a bloody face and torn up clothes, telling the cops everything that had gone down. As a result, all 7 of the Main Street guys were hit with charges for robbery, K-napping, asslet, and conspiracy. Stutterbox didn't just stop at reporting the attack. He went all in, implicating Shaq by claiming that Del Dog and the other Main Street guys had only acted on Shaq's direction. He even went ahead to tell investigators that when he and Shaq were still rolling, Shaq assigns him and his crew to do his dirty bidding. He went on to also reveal that Shaq allegedly wanted them to take out a member of the downtown gangster Crips because the guy had disrespected Shaq in front of his wife. And that wasn't just it. Stutterbox also claimed that Shaq also wanted them to K-word another woman he had impregnated. That was not all. He also claimed that Shaq had once asked them to break an NBA player's shooting arm. The revelations were just intense. The crazy thing is, at the time, Shaq and Shawnee were going through a messy divorce, and things were getting even more complicated. Stutterbox claimed he started seeing Shawnee romantically, and Shaq found out because he had hired a private investigator to follow them. This, according to Stutterbox, only added more fuel to what was brewing. It might have also been the reason why Shaq was really after him. When all this came to light, both Shaq and his business partner Mark Stevens denied knowing anything about the attacks. Shaq insisted that while he had met a few Main Street members during community events like toy drives in South Central, he didn't have any deep personal connections with them. Meanwhile, the FBI was already building a case against the Main Street Mafia Crips. They had wiretaps on Del Dog's phone and heard him talking to Mark about how Stutterbox had flipped and was now cooperating with the cops. They also pulled some evidence, showing several calls between Mark and Del Dog around the time of the on Stutterbox. Despite all this, neither Shaq nor Mark were ever charged in connection with the case. Fast forward to July 2011, Stutterbox decided to sue Shaq for failing to comply with what he termed as an oral contract, and for allegedly setting him up for a but the lawsuit surely did not fly. Things took another turn on July 8, 2015, when Del Dog was tragically shot and offed around 11:30 p.m. near the intersection of Broadway and Century Boulevard. Sadly, it was not tied to any gang. As for Stutterbox, he's still around and occasionally shows up, especially online, going back and forth with people about the case. He seems to be fending off of the situation and is always ready to throw in his 2 cents about what really went down. There's also this wild story about Busy Bone, this legendary rapper from Bone Thugs and Harmony. And it all went down on this seemingly normal Monday back in January 2009, a day that started off so chill and unassuming it's almost hard to believe how it unraveled into sheer chaos by the end. Busy was kicking back, doing his thing at the Universal Studios Hollywood theme park, staying in style at the Universal City Hilton Hotel, just vibing and soaking up the good life, when later that night he felt the itch to head out and explore a bit, so he decided to grab a drink and ended up at this lively little spot called the Saddle Ranch, a restaurant and bar known for its rowdy, fun atmosphere and good times. While he was there just trying to enjoy himself, he couldn't help but catch the attention of these 2 women who seemed super interested in him. One of them walked right up and struck up a conversation under the guise of asking for a photo, while the other kind of lingered a few feet away, totally engrossed in her phone. And it all seemed innocent enough. But then, as the vibe kept building, they decided to take the party back to Busy's hotel room, and for a while, it was all good. They drank, smoked, and laughed, just having a good time. But this weird tension spread in the air, and it boils down to one of the women who kept stepping out of the room to take calls, and Busy couldn't shake this nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. Still, the other woman played it cool, assuring him there was nothing to worry about, so he tried to chill and brush it off. But about 45 minutes later, things escalated in the most terrifying way imaginable. A group of men suddenly stormed into his hotel room, and before he could even process what was happening, they were all over him, beating him, choking him, and ripping off 35 grand worth of his jewelry in what turned out to be a total setup. After grabbing the goods, these guys bolted, leaving Busy battered, bruised, and in complete shock. Somehow, though, he managed to pull himself together just enough to stumble out and get help. Luckily, the hotel had some top-notch surveillance cameras, and the cops were able to get a good look at the men in their getaway car, which put them on the trail fast. Incredibly, just 5 days later on January 10th, they pulled over the car and nabbed the driver, a guy named Marlo Jones, who went by the street name Bow Wow, and not the rapper, but a known member of the Grape Street Crips. And here's the kicker. At the time of his arrest, Bow Wow was actually working for a gang intervention program called Unity 1, where he was supposed to be helping reduce gang violence alongside big names like USC football coach Pete Carroll. But the investigation didn't stop there. The cops kept digging and soon rounded up 3 more members of the Grape Street crew: Van Quan Knott, aka V, Ricky Pearson, known as Lil BK, and Marquise Goss, who went by Cheese. And talk about a rookie mistake, because these guys were straight up flaunting Busy's stolen jewelry and photos, rocking his chain, watch, ring, and bracelet like they had just hit the jackpot, which made it super easy for investigators to tie them to the crime. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't long before all 4 of them folded under the pressure and pleaded guilty, and when the sentences came down, they were no joke. Bow Wow got slapped with 12 years, Cheese got 6, Van Quan got 11, and Lil BK got the harshest at 19 years, proving once again that karma doesn't miss even when the streets are wild. It's not just LA where the whole checking in thing matters. It's a big deal in cities like Detroit too, and nobody enforces it harder than Trick Trick. If you're an artist rolling into Detroit and skip the heads up, you're risking some serious trouble. Just ask Youngberg, Styles P, Jadakiss, Trick Daddy, or even Rick Ross, who have all learned the hard way through robberies or being shut down.
We had Rick Ross right outside here tonight at about 11 o'clock. When he was pulling up to come into Sherry Park, he was met by 100 individuals outside. We have tried to pull every resource together and ask him to come back. He is in fear of his life.
Trick Trick's infamous no-fly zone is all about making sure outsiders give back to Detroit's music scene instead of just taking. And if you're not with that, you're not welcome. Anyway, that's all from us today, guys. Have a good one.